I'm showing here today has a lot of columns around an attribute of year. It's not a problem really when you're working with a single source of data, and in Excel, it's very easy to create formulas against this data set. But when you try to do more complex operations, it gets to be a little bit challenging. Let me show you exactly what I mean. All right, so we're working with GDP data. We've got the countries, and we've got all the years and values for every country and year combination. So let me try to create a pivot table against this data set. So we're creating the pivot table, and I'm working with Excel 2013, an older version, but what I'm going to be showing also applies to Excel 2016 and even later versions. So I'm finishing up my pivot table. All right, selected the data. I'm going to say OK. Instantly, we're going to see a problem. All right, if I want to look at all the data, I've got to drag in a column, or got to drag in a specific column for each and every year. It's a lot of work. And so if I want to drag in 2011, and so forth and so forth. Hard to work with it, hard to visualize it, difficult to sum it up, etc., etc. All right, so what do we do? Right. It would be great if the data was stored a little differently, specifically if there was a column for the year as an attribute and then a column for the value, and this would have the data be stored more row-wise than column-wise. But I want to show you something that is in Excel, right, that makes this much easier. This is a built into Excel. It's called Power Query. Right, and so you can see up here on my menu, all right, I have Power Query installed. It may or may not come installed in your version of Excel, so there's a quick way to check for it. I'm going to show you that real quick before we get too far along. All right, I'm going to go to File and Options. Right, and we're going to look for add-ins. And we're going to specifically be looking for COM add-ins provided by Microsoft, and in this case, Microsoft Office Power Query. Down here, I'm going to go COM add-ins. And what we really want to make sure is that the Microsoft Power Query add-in is on your system and is checked and installed. When you do that, you'll find that Power Query is added to the ribbon. Okay, and there's a specific option here to work with a table or range of data, and we're going to make use of that to do a little bit of processing of this data set. So I've already got a table that's been created for the exact data range that I've got. And you don't have to be too accurate with the data range. The data doesn't have to be perfect. That's one of the beauties of working through Power Query. But I'll show you what I mean by that. So I've got this table already defined. I'm going to choose from table and range. So my geography column, that looks pretty good, but let's check something to see if there's any extraneous rows that were added. Yeah, I've got some blank rows that I probably don't want in my output data. Right, so I'm going to deselect those and say OK. And you can also see I've got all these other columns just like I did in Excel. And what I would really like is an output that has 3 columns: geography, a column for the year, and a column for the value. So I'm going to come up here to the transform part of the ribbon, and I'm going to come over here to where it says unpivot columns, right? And I'm going to select, and it gives you 3 different options. You can either select specific columns, right? Or you can unpivot other columns. So that's going to be all columns that aren't selected. Or you can unpivot only selected columns. Well, I want to do the unpivot other columns option. And when I select that, something magical happens. it's going to look at the data and it's going to do just what I wanted. It's going to create an attribute column and it's going to create a value column, right? Which is perfect. So I'm going to come back up here to the menu, say close and load since it's exactly what I wanted. And it's going to create a new worksheet that has this new data set. And I'm going to take this new data set and then show you how easy it is to work with this data. All right, copying all of it. Copy. I'm going to do my after data set. Paste the values in here. And now I'm going to try to create a pivot table against this after data set. Select the entire columns. And tell it that that's exactly what I wanted. All right. Now I can work the most efficiently with this new data set. One drag of the geography, one drag of the year over into the columns, and drag the value down. Tell it that I want to do a sum of. And there you have it. A much easier way to deal with the data, and it only took me just a couple minutes to do the data transformation from column-based to row-based.